everybody. Hello. It is Kim, and I am here with you for my Tuesday Night Live. Welcome. I might have overdone the hairspray. It's always whenever I go live, I'm like, what's going on with the hair, right? That's always the first thing that I see because I'm vain. All right, so welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we can have this time together every week. I wasn't here last week. I apologize. It was just a crazy day, and I sort of forgot it was Tuesday. I mean, honest truth. And I do tell the truth. So I got some products sent to me, and I just noticed there's water in this glass, and because it's hot here for here, and my ice melted, and I wanted to pour a drink into it for the live. So anyway, but I'll wait until a few more people are here to do that, so people can see what I gotta share with you. Do I have both products? Yes, I do. Okay, good deal. I'm glad you guys are here, and I am so happy to be with you. I am wearing my CGM again. You can see that. You know, whenever I show my CGM on camera, I'm always like, it is on the floopiest part of my arm. I don't know. I don't want to wave my arm wiggles at everybody all the time, but there you go. So I'm glad that you guys are here. So I've got my CGM on again. I'm trying out a new app. I'm not going to share details about the app I'm trying. It's not specifically a keto app. It's an all things app, but it includes keto options. But I'm going through the phases with the app and trying it out for a month, checking my blood sugars about the things, and then I'll do a report. So that just so you guys know, I can report that I am irritated at the little amount of food it's telling me to eat, but there seem to be some results as I seem to have lost a pound this week, so can't complain too much. Anywho, I'm glad people are joining. I'm glad to see people are here. So we do this Tuesday Night Live almost every Tuesday. And I'm here to answer your questions, so you can bring them. If I can't answer them on this live, I try and research it and get you an answer later. But there you go. So as I said, it's kind of warm where I am today, so hopefully I'm not going to sweat my face off. Thank you. I got a like on my shirt. I love this shirt, and I wish that I had bought more because, it's from Target, like on the clearance rack like 3 years ago. And, lace from Target doesn't hold up forever, but I like it too. Thanks. I appreciate it. It does have a regular short portion. It's not all lace. That would have been my 90s experience. The all lace. Remember those shirts that were just all lace? Yeah. Okay. Anywho, let's jump in with a product, shall we? So I got some stuff. I got a box. Hold on. I'll show you this. Got a box full of stuff. Oh, my timer's going off. And in it were some chips and some shakes. So these are the chips. They're from a company called Genius Gourmet. So no one is paying me for this. The payment I got for this was a box of stuff. Would you like to try these things? Yes, I'd like to try these things. This is what I say. But I am honest. So be prepared. Okay, and so in these chips, so I actually prepared for you people. Brought a little clear bowl. So I opened this bag of chips. I'm going to show you what's in. Yeah, that's it. I show you what's in this bag of chips. Hopefully you can see that okay. Chip. They smell like onion. So this is ranch flavor. So I got ranch. I think there's just ranch and spicy nacho. Hey, Fred, I don't have links for these people yet. They didn't send me links. So I will add links to the stream, whether to the descriptions. Once they send me the links, I emailed them. I was like, hey, what do you want me to say? But the company's name is Genius Gourmet. And their handle on Instagram is @GeniusGourmet Keto. And on Facebook, it's @GeniusGourmet. Anyway, but I'll add links once I have them. So anyway, these chips, see if the spicy nacho is different. The macros look about the same. Okay, the ranch has 1 more gram of carbs. So I'll tell you the ranch because I opened that one. 140 calories, 14 grams of fat, 5 total carbs, of which 3 are fiber. Protein is 8 grams. So from a macros perspective, totally doable for a chip, although you'll see it's not a lot of chips. I think it's an ounce. Yeah, it's just over an ounce. So basically an ounce. And ingredients, MCTs from modified palm kernel oil, a protein blend of soy and sodium caseinate, tapioca starch, water, soy fiber, dehydrated vegetables, which is onion, garlic, tomato, salt, sour cream, citric acid, tocopherols, silicon dioxide, potato starch, dehydrated potato, natural flavors, dried buttermilk, sunflower lecithin, malic acid, spices, yeast extract, silicon dioxide, citric acid, sodium, diacetate, and acacia gum. Siri decided to translate all of that. Oh, what happened? Where did you go? There you are. Sorry about that. A little computer glitch. Okay, so I mean, was anyone expecting a list of entirely clean ingredients for a chip? Probably not. Don't go opening a bag of junk food expecting it to be not junk food. I'm just going to say it, right? It's a bag of chips. So good and bad, right? One, it's not a lot of chips. You can take it that however you want it to be. Ingredients, few I'm not fond of. And then there's the question. So this is the eternal question for me. Is the juice worth the squeeze? That is not my statement. I don't know where that quote came from, but I love that quote. Is the juice worth the squeeze? So it depends what your confines are, right? I mean, honestly, I'm going to say it again. I just said it, and I just want to say, like, if you're thinking you're going to find good nutrition in a bag of chips, you're looking in the wrong place. Just going to say that. So then the question becomes, in my opinion, the question becomes, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the taste, texture, experience of being able to have something like this in your life important to you? Worth it? Certainly better than a bag of Doritos. Better than a bag of Doritos, I'm going to say. The taste, I had one earlier, so there was one missing. They're definitely crispy here. I don't love to eat on camera because I'm always going to get something in my teeth, but go ahead. So you can hear that it is crunchy. It is tasty. It's tasty and crunchy. It's a winner in my book on a flavor level. There's a little bit of an aftertaste. It's that protein powder aftertaste. I'm not thrilled. Their protein powder is soy protein concentrate. I don't really do soy much. Would I eat these at a party? Would I eat these once a year? Totally. Would I make them a staple of my diet? No, because I try to make the staples of my diet nutrient-dense foods. But, you know, again, it's all about the category. If you're opening a bag of chips, I don't expect you're expecting a nutritional powerhouse. Okay. So, but definitely tasty, and it's a nice texture. And this is the shake that I got. Oh, I put one in I forgot to get the one out of the fridge. So this is the shake we've got. Looks like milk. That's what it looks like when it was pouring. Tastes like sweet milk. You could definitely, it's vanilla flavored. I probably want to add some spice, something not spicy. That'd be weird, but some flavor maybe. But it's a nice vanilla flavor. Let's look at the ingredients, shall we? It's also 170 calories, 15 grams of fat, 5 grams of carbs, 6 grams of protein. There are very similar macros on the chips and the shake. Water, MCTs, milk protein isolate, cream, soluble corn fiber, probably as a thickener or stabilizer, acacia gum, same thing, monoglycerides, gelling gum, also a stabilizer, like to thickener, stevia extract, and tocopherols. No, that's wrong. Tocopherols. So no soy in here, which I'm pleased about. Doesn't taste bad. You know, the issue with, I'm going to have like a milk mustache. The issue with shakes is I don't find them very filling, right? So for 170 calories, I could have like a piece of meat, right? And get protein out of it. And I could have salad with meat in it, right? And so I would find that more filling. But the flavor is very nice in this. I thought and sometimes these kind of things aren't great. It's not a meal, obviously. It's got 6 grams of protein in it. So like you'd be maybe having this with some meat. I always try to think about like where would I use these things? How would I use these things? Mostly it's I would say, you might put the lack of protein is a problem for me because I don't do low protein, and 170 calories, while not a full meal, is about a half a meal for a lot of people. So I guess if you had just protein, so if you had like a lean piece of meat and you wanted a shake with it, or like egg whites and a shake, I'm just trying to like think of the use case for this. But it's very tasty. Oh, I just spit. It's very tasty. The flavor is good. It's not overly sweet. I could totally see like using this maybe like as a creamer in a coffee drink. And maybe, you use a little bit at a time and then you've got a tasty creamer situation. So, I really appreciate when people send me these things, and I don't want to say but I also want to be honest. Like, I don't know exactly when I would use these products in my current diet iteration. But the taste is good. The flavor is good. The spice level is good. The texture is good. So just letting you know about that. So this company is called Genius Gourmet. Genius Gourmet. Okay. So then the next product that I got sent, by the way, I'll look for questions in a minute. I'm just doing my products up front. I'm also schwitzing here. It's hot. Carmichael's Keto Butter Cookies. So I got sent these in the mail. I got sent 2 packages. We opened the other one. So it's not a blind taste test here. Or not, that's not the right term, is it? It's not my first taste of these, but I wanted to show you what I got. So they look like that. It looks like a peanut butter cookie, right? But it's not. So the only ingredients in these cookies are blanched almonds, obviously pulverized to almond flour, butter. It looks like salted butter. Monk fruit powder, which they use a combination of erythritol and monk fruit extract in that. So probably Lakanto or something similar. And then vanilla. That's it. So from an ingredient perspective, people would consider them clean, right? It's like a cookie you'd make. Apparently these macros everyone wants to make everything 170 calories because it's 170 calories. So 170 calories, 15 grams of fat, 7 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber. The erythritol of that is 3 erythritol. So if you do net, which I don't, but if you did, it would be 7 minus the 3. That would be the total after the erythritol is 4, and then 2 grams of fiber. So 2 net carbs if you do that. Again, it's not a meal. It's clearly a snack or a dessert. A serving is considered 2 cookies. Hold on. 2 cookies. And again, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the question you have to ask yourself about all these things. I tasted these before, so they're not crispy, right? They're that almond flour cookie thing. If you don't cook and you want something that tastes like a homemade almond flour cookie, get these. That's what they taste like. I would have appreciated something like a chocolate chip in them or something like that. And in the bag, there are 6 cookies. If you ate this whole bag, because I know you people, because I am you people, 6, I mean, that would be about, now I have to do math. 7 times 3, 21, carry the 2. 3, 2, 5, like 510 calories for the whole bag. That would be a whole lot of calories for very little nutrition. So, on the ingredient list, very clean. Um, and my boyfriend tried them as well. He's not keto. He ate them. He ate the other bag. So there's a winner statement. And it's interesting. You'd think that a lot of the fat in these were coming from the butter, but we actually did the breakdown because we're nerdy. And most of it, almost all of the calories and fat is actually coming from the almonds. And so a very basic, tasty little cookie. But again, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, look at your nutritional requirements. Right? I have to play Tetris, right? You've got what do you need to be a healthy person? And then you can stack on top of that the happy things, right? So like, what do you need to be a healthy person is like the meat. And if you do veg, the veg, and maybe a little bit of butter or olive oil or whatever, like healthy base diet. And then you can add the accessories. And a cookie is definitely an accessory. So you have to take all that into account. And so is the juice worth the squeeze? I'm going to have it put on a shirt as soon as I figure out where that saying came from. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and look at the questions. So CJ says I think she was talking about the chips, but I would want more and it would trigger me. Yeah, you got to know your trigger foods and you got to not buy those. Zim says, I finally found Valley Hill milk at Whole Foods. Tastes great, no carbs. Yeah, so I talked about this on a previous live and on my Instagram. I don't remember the name, but if you go to Zero Sugar Milk, that's it, zerosugarmilk.com. Mostly they're at Whole Foods, but it's a dairy that has created a type of milk where they have filtered out the lactose completely. So it's zero carb milk. Crazy. Milk naturally has quite a bit of carbs in it, like 12 to 15 grams for a cup. That's naturally in there. That's not even added ingredients, but there's a way that they can filter that out. And it's not like a crazy process. It's literally filtration. So you can get this milk and it has that texture like milk, which is really nice. But zerocarbmilk.com is where you'll find information about that. And be aware, it's a dairy that has regular milk too. Don't get the one that isn't zero sugar milk. Okay. So Tina asks, have I ever used PB2? I've tried it. So basically PB2 or similar products, they do a process where they separate the peanut parts. And so you end up with you keep the carbs, you keep the protein, and they take most of the fat out. And so it's a dried product because most of the fat is liquid like oil in a peanut. Excuse me. So it's I've tried it before. I'm always disappointed is my answer. Because like, okay, what are you going to do with it? Right? You can use it as a flour in baking. So you could do that. I think most people think of maybe they're going to put it in like a shake or something. But like I said, I don't really do shakes that often. Occasionally I do. Like you could put it in a protein shake and it's going to add a little more protein and it's going to add a little bit of carb or a fair amount of carbs. And then you also have to watch that a lot of the PB2s have sugar added to them. So it's okay. But I haven't yet found a really good use for it. We actually have a container of a similar product in our cabinet. We've had there for a very long time because I got it to try it. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Don't know what to do with this thing. Right. Because it's a powder. So it's not like peanut butter you can spread on something. It's like, what I do with this powder. Rita asked, would going carnivore help a sweet addiction? For some people, absolutely yes. So sometimes it's kind of like, there's like two schools of thought. Sorry, I have the itchiest nose. There's two schools of thought on carb cravings. One is find things that you can have. Sugar cravings, sweet cravings. Find things that are sweet that don't mess with your macros or your results. And then the second one is stay away from everything sweet until, your body kind of acclimates to not seeking out that taste. It's like eventually you stop missing it. So there are kind of two schools of thought on that one. And for a lot of people going carnivore for like 30 days, you might not enjoy the first part of those 30 days because you want something you can't have, but it draws a really strict line. There's nothing sweetened in the carnivore kingdom. Well, I mean, you could technically say honey, but that's not okay if you're doing keto carnivore, right? So yeah. So for some people, absolutely, Rita, it's worth a try. Give yourself a 30-day carnivore experiment. Tracy said it's so hard to get enough protein. Why waste eating with a shake? Yeah, I mean, some people find getting protein in a protein shake is a way to boost protein, but there's no protein in this protein shake, and I don't find it hard to get 15 grams of fat. It's a tablespoon of butter, or a little more than a tablespoon. But okay. CJ said I had to remove cream due to sweet addiction. Absolutely. Cream is sweet. And one of the problems is it's also delicious in many ways. And so I do better without cream at least in my coffee. I do other things in my coffee. I do either like that zero sugar milk, or I do almond milk. I do nut pods. I do all sorts of things. I just try and make sure my coffee isn't that calorically dense, or else it will go badly. People like the cookie. Okay. Okay. So Gina, that reminds me, Gina asked, have I tried Kettle and Fire bone broth? Just got my first order. They actually reached out to me to send me some bone broth, but I have tried it. I like it. It's not thick. You know how bone broth is supposed to be thick, like, cause it's got all that collagen in it. Can't figure out how it can have so much collagen in it and be watery. But I love the taste. It needs a little salt for me, and it's great to cook with. And I'm a fan. Let's go. I missed a question about keeping my CGM on. 1, you have to be very careful when you're taking your bra off. 2, if you're klutzy like I am, you have to be careful about things like doorways, because I tend to whack my arm into things, and it's at a place where you can kind of see it's stuck on with adhesive. So the whole thing under it is adhesive, sticky. Now, if I stick my fingernail under the edge and push, it'll pull off. Sort of like, it's like a Band-Aid, right? It's like an extra sticky Band-Aid. And because it sticks out from my body a little bit, you can see I'm just touching the side, it moves. And so if you hook that lip on anything, it might pull off. So you do have to be aware of that. I don't actually struggle to keep them on, as long as every time I'm taking my bra on or off, I think CGM. I have to remember it's there, and then I don't have a problem. Because, if a strap is tight to your arm when you're pulling it on or off, it'll hook it. And then the other one is just doorways. I have to be careful with doorways. Apparently, I am totally unaware of how often I bang into doorways until I have my CGM on. They do sell tape that you can put over it to kind of keep you from doing that kind of thing. The other people I see having problems with them are swimmers. There's no problem in the shower or whatever, but if I spend a lot of time in water, that might affect the adhesive potentially. But if that, I would get one of those strips that goes across it and holds it down. Tracy says, why is there such a focus on calories? I thought it was carbs to watch because they kick off the glucose insulin cycle. That is a great question, Tracy. So and Rachel said same here. So I am sure that is about the same thing that she's saying. I actually do calories too now. Just saying. It's not a popular opinion in a lot of ways, but so here's how I look at it. And I actually did a podcast about it just last week on my podcast, Keto Life Support. So when I started keto, it was all about just the carbs and just counting the carbs and just tracking the carbs. And what ended up happening was I naturally lost weight. I lost about 60 pounds doing that. I naturally had the best health of my life. I naturally turned a bunch of health conditions around. I was very healthy. My blood work looked great. I felt so much better. I wasn't like obsessed with thoughts of food, and I still weighed about 200 pounds. And so there wasn't anything I could do at that point to make things better. And so at that point, my choices were to accept the body I was in, which I love my body. My body is my temple, right? It's what I've got. I'm not getting another one. So you got to love it. And so I'm not like being harsh on my body, but I wanted to weigh less. I wanted to weigh less. And there's a point at which when you get metabolically healthy, and my body was metabolically healthy at a weight that was significantly higher than I wanted to be. And so then you got to look at calories too. It's not calories instead of, but for me, it was very much about calories too. So I had to keep my body in a healthy, low insulin state, keep my blood sugars stable. Then I had to eat less fat and, watch that kind of thing. And so when people are stalled out, when you're not seeing the success you want, I say start with just carbs. But if after a while you're not seeing the success you want, what are you going to do? A lot of us, myself included, at one point went to zero carbs. Was at zero carbs and still weighed about 30 pounds more than I wanted to. What then? Right? And so it becomes kind of a trap for some of us. And so then I had to really look at calories and acknowledge that they matter. Now, the reality is, for a lot of us, when we just clean up our diet, when we kick junk food to the curb, when we eat whole, real foods, when we focus on nutrient dense, satiating things like meat, and we eat enough fat and we, do all that kind of stuff, naturally our body just settles into the right range. But, the reality is that in our culture, we value certain body shapes and sizes that maybe have nothing to do with health. And I definitely do think we can get healthy on just watching our carbs, but I don't know that we always get as thin as we want to be. And that's true. Some people they do, and some people they don't. And if you don't, I'm not going to invalidate your experience. I would have to say, like, well, I guess just if I don't want to do that, I'm just going to accept this the way I am. And that would be a fine choice, but it wasn't the choice I wanted to make. So hopefully that made sense. And I find that's true for a lot of people. Sorry, I'm jumping around because the questions jump around a little bit. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. Repost it. Isella says, I bloat after meals, started carnivore 90%, no dairy or veggies except a small amount of onions and bell peppers and still bloating. Cut out the onions and bell peppers and see if that's better. And then from there, if you're still bloating. So what are you saying? Your stomach sort of poofs out after you eat? At that point, it might be a digestive enzyme issue, which I tend not to believe in very much. But if it's just the meat and you're not digesting that very well, Isella, or it might be Isela. I'd also ask, like, are you eating 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day? Like, sometimes a really big meal can cause some bloating. So yeah. But go down to just carnivore, see if that helps. Because both peppers and onions are things that can cause bloat. Specifically, they are higher in fructoligin, something like that. Basically things that will ferment into sort of a sugary experience. They're both off of the list for certain AIP protocols. Kim says, I make a cool chocolate fat bomb with cream cheese and PB and me unsweetened peanut butter powder plus swerve, freeze until they get stiff, cut into squares. Sounds a lot like fudge. I just wonder in that instance why you wouldn't just use part peanut butter and part cream cheese. Just a thought if you didn't want to buy another product. But if you love your thing, have your thing. Nancy says, I added collagen powder to my coffee, electrolyte drops, glucose, iodine, peppermint essential oil, blended in a NutriBullet. Yum, yum. Courtney says, I usually put an extra Band-Aid over my CGM. I haven't lost one yet. Yeah. Okay. Rita says, how long? Tracy. Yes, I am just such a klutz. I walk into so many things, doorways, very much included. Rita said, how long did it take you to lose your 60 pounds? So when I first started keto, I should introduce myself more. Hello. Because I can't assume you guys have been there from the beginning, right? So I first went keto 5 years ago. I lost 60 pounds in about a year, just over a year. a good 40 pounds of it, like in the first 6 months. And then it kind of slowed down. And then by year 2, it was just flatline. And then I gained 10 pounds, maybe even 15. There, I debate. Over the next year, that was very frustrating. Keto the whole time. And then I had to be like, this isn't going to work for me. What should I do? And so I increased my protein. I decreased my fat. I did a bunch of different things. I started doing reverse dieting, cyclical dieting, these kinds of things where I got my body in a better metabolic state to lose weight. And so that's what I practice now. So since then, I've lost another 30 pounds. And what I do is I do seasons where I'm not dieting, where I'm not trying to lose body fat, where I'm keeping my caloric intake higher, letting my body maintain my weight, getting my hormones into a better state. Because trying to lose body fat, reducing what you're eating is not a super wonderful hormonal place to be in for a long time. So I get my hormones back up and I do that for a while. Then if I have more body fat that I want to lose, which I still want to lose about another 10 pounds, I go into a short period of time where I eat less for a while. And then I level out again, come back up to maintenance and stay there. So it kind of becomes a little bit of a cyclic pattern. And so that's how I do things now. And it makes me feel like I'm in charge of things. I mean, I'm not in charge of things like I could snap my fingers and it happens like that. Weight loss is still kind of hard for me compared to what I think it's like for everyone else, because grass is always greener over there. But I work with people who struggle, who, just going keto didn't fix everything in terms of what they actually want to weigh and feel like and experience life like. And so that's kind of what I focus on. But yeah, just going keto. I counted macros. So, it wasn't like my calories were through the roof, but I followed sort of some macros back in the day that I wouldn't recommend to anybody at this point. And did lose those 60 pounds. So there you go. Tally says, thank you for pointing out that calories matter. If people think you can eat as many calories as you want is to lose weight. Kim feels seen. Appreciate that. Maria says, me too. I have hyperthyroidism and my eczema acts up. I bet that is about dairy. I bet that is. Sometimes I can't marry the questions together. Tammy said, did you do lower calories with more hours of fasting? No, I didn't do more fasting when I lowered calories. I don't love fasting. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Don't love it. Not for me. It works for many people. I'm not saying I don't love it like conceptually. I'm like, I don't love it. I don't love the experience. And so I don't include it in my way of doing things. I mean, I overnight fast. I don't sleep eat, as far as I know. That would explain a lot. I don't eat while I'm sleeping. So there's an overnight fast. And I keep a window, like I do time restricted eating, but I don't do a lot of fasts. I don't do long fasts. I have in the past done a few longer fasts. I have a history of binge eating disorder. It makes me crazy to fast. I don't do well with fasting. I also, am concerned about loss of lean mass, and I just like to eat. So I'd rather eat than fast. And because I have the binge eating history, the not eat a lot, not eat a lot kind of pattern is very evocative of binge eating disorder. And I'm not saying that fasting is an eating disorder. I'm saying because I have the history of having an eating disorder, it's not good for my brain. It's not good for my mind. And I would rather just have a way of eating and stick with it rather than going back and forth and back and forth. So there you go. I changed the way I eat, but the fasting eating doesn't work for me. Oh, Nancy says, Maria was responding to my comments about nightshades. Exactly. The nightshades, an issue. Ruby says, I have been carnivore for 2 months, have pure water diarrhea. Girl, I know how that goes. I do not have a gallbladder. Girl, I know how that goes. There have been a few days where I've cheated, and when I cheat, I don't have diarrhea. That's because you added fiber back in. I started ox bile. It has not helped. Do I think go back to keto and not carnivore? So this is a thing. This happens to a lot of people. So one of the issues is that fiber for a lot of people slows down your digestive process, which is the opposite. So it actually too much fiber makes some people very constipated, which is kind of the opposite of what often is suggested. We're all unique. It's very, very common to have that issue. If it's causing you problems, I mean, if it's not manageable, then I would say, yeah, go back to keto. You could also try to wait it out and see if it goes away over time. But 2-3 months is a good long time. I hear 6 to 8 weeks for a lot of people. I know Judy Cho, Nutrition with Judy, on Instagram talks about this, and she definitely, I think it's ox bile that she does recommend for those people like you. But I think she has some other recommendations. So if you don't follow her, go look at her stuff. She might be of help. I was carnivore for a period of time, and I did have the same issue. It eventually cleared up, probably around month 2. I mean, so yeah, there you go. But yeah, I would look at, but I'm not what I would call like a carnivore expert, because I ended up Cho, CHO, no W at the end, Ruby, but otherwise correct, Judy Cho. And I think her Instagram, let me find it. Her Instagram, search for it. Show. No, Judy. Nutrition with Judy is her Instagram handle. Nutrition with Judy, and her last name is spelled CHO. So she might be somebody to look at. Kim says, I didn't realize fiber constipated me until I went keto. I don't really believe in fiber anymore. Yeah. I have to account for fiber. If I do really, really high fiber, I have to use other, I have to be aware that I have to really up my sodium intake, or else I will have constipation issues that I don't want to have. Thanks, Brandy. Tali says, I heard if you take electrolytes, it helps constipation. Yes, like I was just saying, actually, specifically magnesium and sodium. So I was like, Dr. Stephen Finney, talks about this in one of his lectures somewhere. But basically, he's like, when I work with people, when they're constipated on keto, usually we up their sodium and it goes away. So sodium is really the main one to look at. But then from there, making sure you get plenty of magnesium. Not as much the potassium, though you need potassium. But in terms of the constipation, magnesium and sodium are the two that you really want to make sure you're getting plenty of. This is why there's something called a salt flush. So for people who are really constipated, they give them like a glass full of salt, like really salty water, and it acts like a laxative. Don't do that unless you are near a toilet. But spread it out through the day. And you also might vomit if you do it. So that's not good. Don't have it so concentrated. Spread the salt throughout the day. It allows water to be pulled into the stool, and for your colon to have that kind of movement it needs to have to move the waste out of your body. And so those two things together help you have better bowel movements. So sodium, can't live without it. All right. A little sweaty here. All right. Let's see. What else did I miss? Let me look and see if I missed any questions. Isela says, I started OMAD. Yeah, don't do that. Sorry. Really big meals are going to increase your bloating. I'm not telling everyone not to OMAD, people, but if you have bad bloating issues, don't OMAD. It's too much for your body. So do 2 meals. Spread that out into 2 meals, and eliminate the nightshades. The onions and the peppers are probably some of the worst offenders on that for some people. And then split that up into 2 meals, and then see if the bloating gets better. And I bet you it will. Michelle asks, can a carnivore diet help with rheumatoid arthritis? So rheumatoid arthritis is a autoimmune condition. By the way, I am not a doctor, nor am I a nurse, nor am I any type of medical practitioner. So please always check everything I say that might be medically related in any way with your medical provider. I'm not giving any medical advice. That's like taking medical advice from your mom. Not that I'm your mom, but take it with a grain of salt. There you go. All right. So Michelle says, can a carnivore diet help with rheumatoid arthritis? Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition. Eating crappy can impact things like autoimmune conditions poorly. So first, cleaning up your diet can absolutely help with things like autoimmune conditions. For some people, certain types of plant matter is more likely to trigger their issues with autoimmune issues. So for some people, going carnivore absolutely helps with rheumatoid arthritis. The good news is it's very easy to test if it will help for you. You can try a 30 to 60 day experiment where you go carnivore and you get to try that out. Anyone with an autoimmune condition, if you follow Nisha Salisbury, she has Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is also an autoimmune condition. And a lot of people will tell you that dairy should probably be avoided too. So if I'm getting like a weird sheen on my lips. Anyway, a lot of people will tell you that, I'm just checking that I didn't have any shake on me. I cannot get through a sentence. ADD girl. A lot of people will tell you dairy is a problem for autoimmune issues, and it is for some, it isn't for others. So I would say take it out and then add it back in and see how you do without it and then with it, rather than the opposite. So yeah, but I would say try it. Try it. Ruby says it has helped my rheumatoid arthritis, I think she said. Kara said, how did I work through my binge eating? Well, that is a good question. So I started binge eating in my elementary school days, and I'm 45 now, so it's been a while. I found keto around 40. And so what I did when I found keto is, first of all, just going keto helped quite a bit. Then I stopped snacking. So I did it kind of a step at a time. I was like, I went keto, I stopped snacking, I stayed to like real whole foods. I worked on my mentality around food, but the first step of going keto really helped. I started tracking my food. I started studying nutrition. And I sort of pushed my obsession with food towards just spending time thinking about health. So I kind of just distracted my brain. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I listened to a lot of Audible. I was going to call them books on tape because I'm old. And so, all of those things really helped. And then I just did the work. And so some of like journaling, some of us need therapy. Therapy is awesome. I've had a lot of therapy in my life. Talking to people, having support groups around the subject, getting a coach, all of those things can help. But there is something underneath, right? So most of us develop an eating disorder or any kind of like obsessive kind of action, like an eating disorder or addiction in a way as a coping mechanism, right? Like I started binge eating in a time in my life where I was very unhappy and didn't have the appropriate coping mechanisms to deal with my feelings. And so I used food instead. And it helped. It filled a gap for a while, but then the effects of the overeating started being their own issue, right? And so then I had to look at that and evaluate, but it took me 30 years. Okay, let's see. Tali says, I think that's when fasting is bad with autoimmune issues. You put stress on your body. Some fasting is good, not always the point where you're stressed out. Yeah. So it kind of depends what kind of autoimmune issue you have as well and how your cortisol responds to fasting. Some people will have really, really intense cortisol responses, which, is a stress hormone. and then that's not as good, and then other people do very well. And so it really is person to person how you respond to fasting. Um, and the leaner you are, the more challenging you might find it. Now, some autoimmune conditions might be related to your gut health, and some fasting can be very helpful for improving gut health. So, again, it's very person to person. Kara says, when I went keto, I lost over 80 pounds, had control for the first 2 years. Now I find I binge on keto. So here's the thing. So I'll dive into this a little bit more. When we are compulsive eaters, we tend to struggle with dopamine regulation. Now, dopamine is a neurotransmitter. And dopamine, a lot of people mistakenly call it, I think it has something to do with pleasure. It actually has more to do with anticipation and planning. And so, and acquisition. So here's the thing, right? So it's like it comes up with eating, it comes up with gambling, it comes up with sex, all these things. So it's like, oh, that person's attractive. You start flirting, and do they like me? And and so like there are addictions about all these things, right? And the dopamine will rise, but you don't have that same thing like in a relationship. Even though you're in love, it's like it's more about the acquisition. And the same thing with food. When you're a food addict, it's like how food addicts, my people, food addicts. See if you agree. You spend a lot of the day thinking about food, thinking about what you're going to eat later, where you're going to go, where you're going to get it. You're like planning, you're fantasizing about that food. That's all about the dopamine. We want that hit, feels good. And then you get the thing, feels good, you won. It's not even about the eating. I mean, that's good too, but right. So a lot of times when we're first starting keto, we replace our dopamine hits with the keto. So what it is now you're learning something new, dopamine hit. Trying something new, dopamine hit. Losing weight, people are going to approve of you. Get on the scale. You're thinking about, am I going to lose weight? Am I going to lose weight? I'm thinking about losing weight. Get on the scale, lost weight, dopamine. Right. So you're getting these hits. So you just moved your fix somewhere else. After a while, it stops happening that way. And so you start eating again because you didn't fix the mental pathways. So what some people do is they just keep adding things, which can be fine. Just move the goalpost. So, if you start to find that you're slipping, it's like, maybe my brain needs a new thing. Maybe I need to start working out. Then I can have a new thing to aim that dopamine hit at, right? Got my workout in, check. Got a new PR, check. Acquisition. I got something, right? So you can move that over. But generally speaking, the brain doesn't like just steady state, doesn't like to stay the same, needs a new goal, needs a new challenge, needs a new thing. So that's one of a lot of pieces about it. Stephanie says, sometimes at night I feel heart palpitations. I take electrolytes and salt. Someone recommended Epsom salts baths. What do you think? So Epsom salt is a way that you can get magnesium, supposedly, that you can absorb. It seems like you can absorb it through your skin. If you're getting lots of magnesium, then I don't know that it's going to help to get more magnesium. I would definitely, whenever it's heart palpitations, I would always check with your doctor just to make sure it's not cardiologically related, just to check. Andrea says, hold on a second. What does my daily meal plan look like? Well, it's changed over time. But generally speaking, these days, in the morning, I have coffee. And in my coffee, I'm like thinking, I put either like a little bit of protein shake kind of mix, or I put nut pods and some almond milk or some macadamia nut milk, or some of that no sugar milk if I have it. And then for breakfast with that, I will have, I just started making these like egg white Danishes. So I might have that. They're kind of based on Marie Emmerich's egg white bread, but with other stuff in it. Like it's like a hot pocket, but it's like a Swedish, sort of vaguely sweet. I put like ricotta cheese in it, make like a Danish. I just started doing that this week. I just made them. Or more traditionally, what I will have at that meal is cottage cheese and yogurt with a little bit of fruit in it. I make sure every time I eat, I get at least 30 grams of protein in that meal. That's my rule. Usually more, but sometimes 30. And so that'll be breakfast. Then, and by the way, when I was first keto, I ate twice a day. Now I eat 3 times a day. Works for me. Then at lunch, I usually have like a wrap, like an Egg Life wrap. You know, those Egg Life brand wraps. They're just egg white wraps, which I'll put lunch meat and vegetables in, maybe some pickles, some cucumbers, chop up some veggies, and then make some sort of sauce with it. Either salsa if I'm going like Mexican-y, or like some barbecue sauce if it's like chicken. And then for dinner, I will have usually a big salad. At least this summer. It's going to change in the winter again, right? But a big salad with, I love iceberg lettuce. So I'll do like iceberg lettuce, cucumbers, red pepper, and meat, usually a steak. Or if I have leftover steak, I might just chop it up and throw it in the salad with some salad dressing, usually a Primal Kitchens type salad dressing. And then after dinner, I might have like a homemade panna cotta or custard that I make or something like that. So that's generally what I eat. Oh, and there's usually an afternoon iced coffee as well. So that's kind of what I eat like. Maria says, food addiction is very hard because it's not like you can just give up whatever you ate. Yeah, you still have to eat. Find a healthy addiction. Yeah. Nancy says, do I know anything about using a grounding mat on my bed? No. I mean, I've certainly heard of them, but I don't have much information on it. Caboodle asked, what is the yogurt you like again? Well, it depends what I'm doing with it. Either Fage, which is spelled Fage, or sometimes I do Too Good yogurt. Either one of those. I love Good Culture brand. What's it called? Cottage cheese. That one is a favorite. And yeah. And then, so just to piggyback on this, right now, because of this tracking app I'm doing, and I'm taking the recommendations of the tracking, I'm doing a little bit more carbs these days. Generally, I've been doing more carbs than I used to, but I'm following this week a fairly not high carb, but more carbs than I really ever eat. So I included some fruit this week. And that's part of the why I put the CGM on. I was like, well, let's see what my blood sugar does. And certainly if I have that higher carb meal, my blood sugar will go up higher than I usually see it, but it comes right back down because I'm insulin sensitive. I would not recommend that for someone who is not insulin sensitive. So anyway, that's, I always try things out and then I tell people about what my experience is. Yeah. So yeah, with the addiction stuff, you can't sleep on it. You know what I mean? You have to like be aware and conscious. A lot of us addicts are not very good at thinking about how we feel, what we want. A lot of us can be a little passive aggressive, right? We don't talk about our feelings, we eat them. And so now you have to start talking about your feelings and being honest about your feelings. That's very uncomfortable. But it's a healthier way to live. So you have to change some things up. At least that was my experience. I can't say that that's true of every single person with binge eating disorder. But for me, it was like, instead of being mad, I'd eat. Instead of being angry, I'd eat. Instead of being depressed, I'd eat. Then I'd be all those things later, but I would like put them off. I would try to numb my feelings, and it worked for a while. And then I got to experience being morbidly obese and being upset about that. And I was like, oh, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that either. So hopefully, yeah. Stephanie says, yeah, I can eat 20 carbs per meal and stay in ketosis. Yeah. So one thing for the new people among you that I've learned is, long-term ketoers who get metabolically healthy, you have a much greater carb tolerance than you did before. And so that can be very individual. It can also depend on your body size. It can depend on your gender. It can depend on your muscle mass. It can depend on your height. Well, mostly the height and the gender part are the muscle mass part. But a lot of factors go into what your carb tolerance is. And hey, New Zealand. And for a lot of people, though I do recommend being very strict at the beginning, because getting into ketosis, getting fat adapted at the beginning, that is hard. But once you're fat adapted, once you're in there, once you've been doing it for 6 months, a year, 2 years, you have some flexibility that you didn't have before. All right, we're coming up on the hour soon, so I can take one or two last questions, and then we're going to say goodnight, and I'm going to make dinner, which will be a very large salad. I just have to pull it together. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's all the questions we have today. All right, guys. Well, it's super awesome that you guys get, well, let me see. How do I want to say that? Oh, now I have questions. Is Powerade Zero okay for electrolyte replacement? No, it doesn't have enough electrolytes. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. It's just not very good. Get some Element, LMNT, which is, you can find it drinklmnt.com. It is a great electrolyte, as is Redmond's Relight, which you can find at Redmond's, and it's called Relight, Relyte. Why everyone spells things weird? It's very challenging for me. Redmond's Relight and Element are the two electrolyte drinks that I recommend because they got a lot of sodium. Powerade doesn't have a lot of sodium. It's also got sucralose in it, which is not good for everybody. It's fine for some people, not good for everybody. So yeah, it's not horrible, but it's not great. Denise says the other day someone mentioned blood type diet. Kind of think it's BS. Don't even think it's anything. Nancy said, thank you for sharing my story. You're welcome. Yeah, I think getting off the sad roller coaster was very helpful for me, but the other day somebody asked me about like, how do you help your daughter? And I was like, it's kind of the hardest person to help, right? Because we don't want to listen to our mom. Sorry, but true. But no, moms out there, know you're being a great example. And when they're ready, they will follow you. You just can't tell them. Maria says, I eat healthy. I would get mad and eat a bag of chips. Totally, it happens. Caboodle, does erythritol register on the glycemic index at all? I think erythritol might be a 1 on some and 0 on others. So that says 0, but we are not. So one thing to always be aware, the glycemic index is a chart that was made based on a very limited amount of data. So how it affects you might not be the way it affects someone else. The only way you can actually know is to try it. Anna says, carnivore has been great for me. Over 50 pounds down, 8 months, loving this way of eating. So glad that you're experiencing that joy. Sorry, I'm abbreviating some of these at the last time. How can you tell you're fat adapted doing keto for 3 months? I mean, you're probably getting there. You're probably there. But people talk about fat adaptation as almost like black and white, but it happens over time. So it's not so much like a switch that gets flipped. It can gradually happen. I noticed I was like, at 10 days, there was some degree, then at 20, then at 30, then at 6 months, there was more. So it can kind of continue. And some of Finney and Volek's studies seem to indicate that when they look at athletes, that over time, it still keeps going. But generally speaking, the symptoms of fat adaptation, which are all we have in the general population to really track from, are reduced hunger, increased feeling of energy, reduced sort of physical carb cravings. You might still have them mentally. And kind of a vigor that you feel good, you feel energized, you feel like you've got energy. Because really that adaptation, what is it doing? It's saying that now your body can run on body fat and dietary fat instead of just running primarily on carbs for energy. Helen, has anyone tried the watermelon? Tried the watermelon LMNT. That is hard to say, people. Yes, it tastes like a Jolly Rancher. Remember those watermelon Jolly Ranchers? All right. Thanks, Denise. Yeah. I mean, if somebody asks me about something, I just very politely say, I don't agree with that. So if someone in your life says, what do you think about the blood type diet? Like, there's really not a lot of evidence for that. I'm not a big believer. If it's working for you, great. Move on. Yeah, no, not a thing. Not a thing at all. All right. Good night, people. Talk to you soon. Go about your business. All right. Have a good week.